This is the homework helper for Chapter 3, Section 2 in the 8th grade workbook entitled Graphing on the Coordinate Plane. So in this first section, as you can see, the directions are all the same. They're asking us to give the coordinates and the quadrant of each point. So let's start off, let's remind ourselves of the quadrants. The coordinate plane is divided into 4 parts. This upper right part is referred to as quadrant 1, which is written with a Roman numeral, and then the quadrants run counterclockwise. So this is quadrant 2, this is quadrant 3, and this down here is quadrant 4. And that will account for the location of pretty much any point unless it's directly on the x or y axis or on the origin, in which case that's what location you would give. You can either be more specific and, for instance, say it's on the positive part of the x-axis or the negative part of the y-axis or something similar if we need to. Okay. So then we have to give the coordinates. Now remember, coordinates are given as a number comma a number. The first number always represents its location in terms of the x-axis, which is the one that runs from left to right across the grid there. And then the second number is always representative of the y-axis. That's the one that runs up and down the grid. So in the first one, they're asking us to give the coordinates of point F. Now, one thing you should see looking at this graph is this graph does go by 2's. All right, so point F, to get the point F from the origin, which is always our starting point, the first thing I'm going to do is make a full jump to the left, which is to -2. So the first part of the answer is going to be -2. And then I have to find out where it matches up with the y coordinates. And again, those also are going by 2's. Well, it's halfway between the -2 and -4 mark on the y-axis, which would of course be -3. And then what quadrant is that point in? Well, that's in this lower right quadrant, which is called quadrant 3. All right, now we can do the same thing there for number 2, point X. To get to point X from the origin, all right, we're going to first move over to the left 3 full jumps, which would be between the 4 and the 8 marker, which would be -6. And then its y coordinate, again, that's the one that goes up and down. Well, that's between this first jump 2 and the next one here 4, which, just like the last question, is going to be 3, except this time it's going to be positive. And then we're asking what quadrant is that in? Well, since that's in this upper left quadrant, that's quadrant 2. And you'll do the same thing as you go through questions 3 through 8. Okay, let's go ahead and take a look then at the next section here. In the next section here, what we're doing is we're given the coordinate, and now we're just going to graph that coordinate. All right, so it's just the reverse of what we were just doing. It should be easy enough. All right, so let's look at question number 9 here. Question number 9, we're graphing the point called A, which is at 2.5, 1. All right, so the first number again tells me about the x-axis. Remember, the x-axis is the one that runs left to right across the screen. So for 2.5, that means I'm going to be exactly halfway between 2 and 3. The second number is 1, so that means on the y-axis its representation is 1. And what I want to do now is I'm going to draw together those 2 points. And where they meet is where point A is going to fall. So as you can see, I'm putting my fingers where I made those marks on the axes, and as I pull my fingers together, they meet right here. So that's where point A is going to be on the coordinate grid. Now if we take a look at number 10, in number 10 they're asking me about the point 0, 4. So the first number being 0 means I don't actually have to do anything, because remember, the starting place, which is the origin in the very center, is 0. It's 0 on the x and 0 on the y. So since the first number is x, I'm not going to move right or left. The second number being a 4 means on the y-axis its representation is 4. Well, as you can see, that's clearly labeled way up here. Right? And again, if I wanted to pull my fingers together where these met, kind of like the last one, although we really don't need to, we can see 0 and 4 meet, well, right here at the x on 4. So that is actually where point B is going to be.